This is Chuck Sachs for Indie Opera Podcast, and I'm meeting with mezzo Liz Bouk, baritone Nathaniel Sullivan, and music director Whitney George to talk about their new New York City production of the chamber opera As One by Laura Kaminsky, Mark Campbell, and Kimberly Reed. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
Good.
Wow, thanks.
So I know actually Bea Whitney is the director.
Yeah.
But she's not here tonight, so we all wish Bea a short bout of flu, apparently.
Yeah.
So, how are rehearsals coming along?
Oh my gosh, they're wonderful. One thing that's really been a treat in doing this particular production is that I actually got to mess around with the string quartet first before the piano reduction, which I think is exactly the opposite of what normal operatic productions are. Of course, our singers have already been coaching the piece wildly, but as far as my touch in with the musical material, it's really nice to actually get the fully orchestrated version and my hands on it first, and let that interpret my kind of understanding of the work. So that's been really, really amazing about it, for sure.
Liz or Nathaniel?
The rehearsals have been a blast. We started staging this week, and it's been so fun. You know, we just, the three of us, Liz and Bea and I, will just sit down at the beginning of the staging rehearsals and just talk and chat about what we think about this moment in Hannah's life, and what this experience means for her, and then what is the most effective way to communicate that. And just the fact that we are able to have these conversations before just diving in and sort of forging ahead is really a luxury that I feel like I don't normally get in rehearsal processes. So I'm thoroughly enjoying them.
Something different that Brittany did is that we started with the most dramatic and upsetting scene in the show, which in the past, or sometimes in shows that is kind of left to the middle or sometimes the end of the process, but instead she addressed it right away.
Is that the assault scene?
Yeah, there's a scene where Hannah is attacked in a parking lot, and it's really upsetting, and we talked about it, and then we started rehearsing it, and now what's interesting is, as an actor now, for me, it's becoming more and more safe the more we do it. And it's also interesting too, because then we get to see if that's the most violent and intense thing that happens to the character, we're experiencing it first in rehearsal, and then we're shaping the rest of the piece kind of around it, and that I just thought was just brilliant, a really different way of working.
Who was the impetus for this production, and where and when is it happening?
Mr. Liz!
I was at the world premiere of As One in 2014, and I fell in love with the piece. I thought it was really moving. At the time I was living as a cisgender person. I was not aware of my own gender identity or sexuality, because I grew up really conservative. And since then, I've come out as transgender, and I instantly remembered this piece and how much it meant to me, how informative it was about what a transgender person's life might look like. And just it was very educational for me, because I came from a conservative background, and I thought, I would love to be part of this piece. So I ordered the score and started working on it. Was supposed to produce it last year, but it didn't work out. So I actually got to perform it in Texas in January. I was covering and got to step in, and we moved the production from last November to this November. So our production of As One is happening on November 8th and 9th here in New York City.
Great. We'll get the ticket information, all that at the end. But this is also, for you, definitely the second opera where you're playing a trans woman character, and you are trans male.
Yeah, so that's a really complicated issue. On a lot of levels. First of all, right now the repertoire that's been written for trans women has been for cisgendered female voices. And I'm not taking hormones at the moment, so my voice fits the role. My identity does not fit the role. All of this would be more ideal if the transgender women parts were written for transgender women, and I think that that's where we're going. I think we're almost there. I really want the next opera. I don't want to keep playing trans women. I feel like this is just a temporary thing, and if the part is going to a cisgender woman, I feel that I have lived as a woman for a long time, unknowingly that I was in the wrong body, and I have a lot to offer to it. So at the moment, I'm kind of in this in-between turning point in terms of playing trans women on stage.
Right, because I know the problem is testosterone majorly changes the voice, whereas estrogen doesn't do the same thing at all.
Right.
And that's the problem between crossing.
Yeah, and so just take some extra training on either transition to get the voice to match what your identity is and who you want to be.
You kind of answered. I was going to ask, it was just performed at the anniversary of Stonewall, and why another production so soon?
It's really just because we were going to do it last November, and we decided to do it this November.
So you would have preceded the other one, but it also, do you know of any major other productions of Aswan where they've had transgender performers in them yet?
No, because it's written for two cisgendered performers.
So, breaking barriers.
That's right.
What do you each feel further that you're bringing to this production? Let's start with Whitney.
Sure. So, as a conductor, I'm still very much learning my craft. What's interesting about conducting is it's usually something you come to much later on. But beyond that, I come to conducting through composing. So I actually, in my earlier years as a composer, I had just met Mark Campbell and Laura Kaminsky, and they had just done this opera, and they just had a fresh video of it where I got to see it. And it was... I really enjoyed hearing them talk about it, and I got to actually hear Laura talk about the compositional structure of it, and Mark talked about the combination of words and working with the original text and such. So I've gotten to hear some recordings of the work, and I'm excited to get to have my own interpretation of it, which I believe to be quite strong, because I think I understand something a little different about the actual construction of the work, and excited to gab to Laura and Mark about that as well. So that's what I think I'm going to bring to this particular production. And the string quartet, of course, certainly 3 of the 4 members work with me constantly, and so that's really fun to be able to not only have a repertoire of vocabulary with them, but also with Liz, because he and I have worked together, and that's really brilliant too. And oh my gosh, it's been wonderful working with Nathaniel as well. Anyway, so I think that kind of connectivity of forces is going to be something that's really special about this production.
Nathaniel.
Yes.
So, you're the newest. This is the first time you're encountering this piece, correct?
Correct.
That aspect, you've heard it before? Or?
Yes, I've heard it. And actually, Liz and I went and saw the New York City Opera production earlier this year. And so I've seen it, and I have listened to it extensively.
Which in that case was actually yet another new production of it.
I guess what I have to offer to this role is just, and something I want to bring to it, it is very binary in the way that it's presented in terms of Hannah before is male and Hannah after is female. And because, although I identify as a trans man, and that's why I live, my personal life, on stage I'm gender fluid, and because I still look like a girl on the outside, I'm constantly misgendered, and that's really hurtful and challenging. And Hannah goes through a lot of the same things that I've been through in my own life, as in terms of being human, and so it's been really nice to connect with that, and also to connect to the joy in this piece, and it has a really positive message, and that's one of the things I really like the most about it, is it presents the challenges and some of the terrible aspects of and the hard parts about being transgender, but it also talks about, the joy, the deep joy in finding yourself and living as your true self.
Liz and Whitney have worked together, and you and Bea have worked together a bit more than that.
I can definitely.
Have you worked with either any of them before this, or you're the complete brand new piece of the puzzle?
I am the complete brand new green piece of this puzzle, but
Bea loves you.
I
talk all the time. Oh my God, Nathaniel, I love you.
Oh my God, well, it's really, it's definitely clicked, and really, like Liz and I met through a mutual friend, and we just decided before, like, I sang for him or anything, like, we just decided to get coffee and, like, get to know each other a little bit. And I don't know, it just, like, it felt good, it clicked, like, I felt very, like, good and comfortable.
It was very easy. There was no excess drama. It was someone I felt really safe with. It was easy for me to be myself. And I thought, it would be so nice to, like, choose all the people that I'm working with and create a really safe space. And a space full of really talented people to create art together.
Well, and that shows, like, the fact that you brought together these, like, people, Whitney and Bea and the two of us, and even, like, our rehearsal pianist, like, just, like, the whole team that has been on this project. It feels like such a safe sort of holding space group of people, and so I've even though I'm sort of the newbie, I guess, in this collaboration, I've never once felt like I don't really fit in or whatever. So it's been great.
We're so happy to have you.
I know you have some background in concert work and everything. Have you had a chance to do more chamber opera or contemporary opera before this?
Yeah, I've done a decent amount. I sort of one of the first things I did when I moved to New York was Philip Glass's Hydrogen Jukebox.
What?
Yeah, I did that with Utopia Opera, like right after I moved to New York. I was such a newbie here in the city, but that was an incredible experience, and was not my first time doing a sort of contemporary opera, but one of the first, and it was a very formative experience. And then from there, I've worked on, I did a piece by Gary Fagan earlier this year that was a world premiere, similar, like a chamber opera type of experience. So yeah, so I've done a decent amount. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in contemporary opera, but yeah.
Right. And your two big recent projects were kind of at opposing ends, because Stonewall was definitely very contemporary, but you would have to say Princess Maleine, for me, I loved it. It was a bit of a throwback stylistically.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment for sure.
Yeah, it was tonal.
It was a numbers opera.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And we don't see as many of those, if we're lucky, anymore. People seem to have lost the concept of how to write them.
Yeah, Princess Maleine had a lot of really beautiful arias, and we all really appreciated that as singers.
How is this score in terms of your relation to contemporary music before?
Oh, this score?
Yeah.
I've sung all kinds of styles throughout my career. This piece is by far the hardest piece of music I've ever had to learn and memorize.
That's
the
key
memorization
one. That's the key one.
is what's really difficult. I've had to sing things that are less tonal and which are more difficult to learn orally.
Right.
And in terms of finding pitch. But this piece, Laura wrote for the singers as if we were violins, or as if we were an oboe sometimes, or a flute. It's very instrumental writing. It's beautiful, but memorizing it is a huge challenge. So, even though I've done the role before, I've spent the last couple of weeks rememorizing the part.
I don't memorize scores anymore.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
A lot of the vocal writing really beautifully escapes the bar lines, and I think that both that in combination with the repetition but with motivation, meaning that it's like kind of different upon its reiterations, makes it a particularly challenging part for vocalists to memorize. Like, it on the page is a totally different beast than it like in your entire person and on stage. So Laura really wrote something very special, and it has that kind of improvisatory feel to it, I think, and it really has a lot of breadth and character. Yeah.
It reiterates to me that the importance of really like starting with the words, because like you said, like it defies the bar line in so many places, and I think as a singer, I should speak for singers as a whole, but myself, it's very easy to get caught up in like, oh, I've got to learn the notes, I got to look at the page and like learn the notes. But like, and I did that. I was sort of like banging my head against a wall for the summer, like trying to do that. And then I was like, this is about the story. This is about Hannah. So why don't we start with that and go from there? And so, and it just like, it clicked, you know, like that's when it clicked for me, is just like, oh, okay, like we're just telling a story. It's not about the notes. The notes are beautiful. The melodies are beautiful, but it's about Hannah, right? And so that's one of the ways it's clicked for me.
Yeah, because the vocal writing goes in and out of the orchestration so often, to me, I almost think of it as a really long song cycle.
Yeah,
with two singers and string quartet, and with this element of projections.
Yeah. And well, that's where we get to go with chamber opera, and it has so many different forms and different varieties, from, you know, a singer with a rock band behind them telling a story, but it's still, in a sense, it feels like a concert. And here this is two singers and string quartet making chamber music, really.
Totally.
And that's what's really different about our production, is that we're doing it in a small space. So there's between, room for 50 or 60 people in the audience, and it's going to be really intimate. It's going to be chamber music, and it's not being presented on a grand stage. It does work on a large stage, but we're really experimenting with kind of a different approach to this piece.
And you will be conducting live, yes.
Thank goodness. Oh my God.
She's going to help us with cues.
I can't. It's innumerable the number of times in these staging rehearsals. It'll be great when Whitney's here.
It's great. Can you do this piece without a conductor?
No.
We've wondered.
Because there's a recent genesis of, and I just saw literally two new pieces. I saw Denise and Katja, which is 4 cellos and 2 singers, and they're cello at each corner, no conductor during the show. And the new piece, Hannah Lash's new piece, Desire, string quartet, 3 singers, no conductor.
I think it requires a tremendous amount of preparation time. The parts are already for the length of the piece. The string quartet saws along for the whole time. And I think to put the onus of also, because you can't do it without any cues whatsoever, but to put the onus of cues upon everyone requires this like incredible mapping throughout the piece, and possible if you have like 30, 40, 50 rehearsals maybe.
And you've all worked together before.
Right.
You read each other's minds.
Exactly. Yeah, no big deal, and everyone's perfect all the time. Yes.
I've gotten used to a chunk of theater in my life where they can't see me. But I've been there so much part of the rehearsal process that I've always worked cues into the work.
Of course, sure.
Especially when I did Peter and Starcatcher, I was above everyone on the side, so they definitely couldn't see me. And it's a very interesting experience. But you've done the work. So I can't wait to see this. And why don't you tell everyone where it's being done? We know it's November 8th and 10th, 8th and 9th.
It's a Friday and Saturday at 7:30, and it's at Alchemical Studios on 14th Street.
And how do people get tickets?
You can get tickets either on my website, lizbouk.com, or on Facebook. There's a group for As One. There's an event there. Or on Brown Paper Tickets, you can search for As One Opera, and it will come up.
I think it's asoneopera.brownpapertickets.com or something, isn't it? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for taking time out of your rehearsals. And I look forward to it. And this is Chuck Sachs for Indie Opera Podcast. Thank you for listening.